If you've ever wondered about the foundational principles that we talk about here on Principle-Based Living of accountability, choice, and control, and wondered how they work together, then today's video is for you, because we're going to talk about how those three principles interact with each other, and by understanding them, how they can benefit your life. My life dramatically changed once I really understood that there were principles or laws that govern this world in which we live. Up until that time, I had some false beliefs. I had some beliefs about what it took to achieve happiness and success in this life. And there was part of me that still believed that there was something magical that had happened or that could happen, or something outside of my control. But once I really got it and understood that everything is governed by laws, that was just a life changer for me, because I realized then if there are outcomes in my life that I do not like, if there are things that I want that I'm not getting, it's not that I can't have those things, it's just that I lack the knowledge or the understanding of the law that is connected to that outcome. And so instead of feeling like I can't have what other people have, or feeling like I have no control, what it did was empower me to realize that it's possible for me to create whatever life it is that I want to have. And so that's what principle-based living is all about. It's about teaching the principles that govern the world in which we live, and that govern things such as happiness and relationships and success. And there are three foundational principles that I believe that if we understand those and we use those in responding to things that happen in our life and making decisions and choices, if we make those decisions based on principles, it will give us the control back over our life, and it will allow us to feel the emotions that we want to feel and to experience the outcomes in life that we really want to have. So we're going to talk today about those foundational principles, about accountability, choice, and control. And I'm going to use an example that happened. There's a lot of different examples you can take about anything and see how these three interact. In a previous video, I shared an experience that my daughter had in college just a couple of weeks ago. And that applies, and we can use that for this interaction between these three principles, and I think it illustrates it really well. So my daughter's in college and is scheduled to graduate this spring. And she had met with her guidance counselor in November and went over all of the classes and all of the credits that she had, and then looked at the courses that she was taking in her final semester to make sure that all of the I's were dotted and the T's were crossed, and she was ready for graduation. And she got the approval of her guidance counselor, who said, yep, you've got everything completed. If you pass all of these classes this final semester, you'll be good to graduate. So the final semester has started. They were about 3 weeks into it was a Friday just before the beginning of the 4th week. And she got a notice, one of the departments at the school, that said that one of the art classes that she had taken did not count towards her graduation requirements, because it was a pass-fail class rather than a letter grade class. That created some anxiety on the part of our daughter. Her name's Andrea, and because school is very important to her, she likes to be in control of things, and she does a good job of managing things in her life. And this was something that caught her, out of the blue. It was something that was not expected. So let's look at principles now. Let's talk about the principle of accountability. So each one of us are accountable for our life. My daughter Andrea is accountable for her life. Now, she did everything that she knew of, or that she thought that she needed to do to make sure that she was ready for graduation. Let's talk about the principle of choice. So she made a choice to accept the information that her guidance counselor was giving her, to trust that that information was accurate and that she would be able to graduate. She didn't have to do that. Now, she could have checked with somebody else. She could have done research on her own to make sure that what the guidance counselor was telling her was correct and appropriate. But she chose not to, which is, probably a choice that most people would make, because the guidance counselor is the expert, right? Or should be. So the guidance counselor has a responsibility to fulfill her job to the best of her ability. But do people make mistakes? Yeah, all of the time we make mistakes. So if the guidance counselor made a mistake, who ultimately does that affect? Well, it would affect her, and it could affect her job. It could affect how she sees herself. But that mistake that she made, she is the one accountable for that decision, that choice that she made. Andrea now is still responsible for her life. And if because of the mistake that somebody else made, she doesn't get to graduate when she expected that she would be able to graduate, that would be something that is outside of her control, because she does not have control over the rules that the school makes up that determine when a person is eligible to graduate or not. She can't control that. But let's look at what she can control. When she found out that information, she had a choice about how to respond to that. She had a choice about what to think. She had a choice about how to feel. And she had a choice about what to do. So initially, she had thoughts that led to feelings of worry and anxiety, maybe fear. There were probably thoughts that created some emotions of anger, of thinking that this isn't fair, this isn't right, and fear about what's going to happen now. Because I've made other plans about what I'm going to do after I graduate this year, and if I'm unable to graduate, then that's going to mess up those plans. And so now I go back to, she doesn't have control over that. She only has control over how she responds to those things that do happen. Now, let's say that when she got that news, that information, she chose to get very angry and she chose to blame. And so she went on the rampage and she decided to attack and go after this guidance counselor who made a mistake, and really proactively, actually it wouldn't be proactive, it would be reacting to the situation and doing things to try to control other people in order to get what she wanted. If she had done that, there's a possibility that maybe it would have worked. So maybe her anger would have influenced the people at the school to say, we don't want Andrea to be angry, so we better do what she wants and give her what she wants so that she's not angry. Maybe. Or maybe it would have caused them to say, well, yeah, we screwed up, but there's nothing that we can do about it. We're sorry. And maybe because you're treating us the way that you are, we're less likely to see you as a person, and we begin to objectify you because of how you are treating us. Even if Andrea responded that way, they still have a choice of how they would respond to Andrea, because Andrea can't control them. So they have a choice as to how they see her. They have a choice to maybe understand where she's coming from. And they have a choice within their power and control of what they can do to respond. And so if we understand that, it helps us respond to situations differently. Now, Andrea, when she found out this information, what she started to do was to figure out, okay, who do I need to contact? What do I need to do? What do I have control over in order to still try and get the outcome that I want? And so she emailed a few people, she called, and she left some phone messages for people explaining the situation. And as it turned out, the school was able to look at what she had done. They were able to look at the information that she had been given, look at the situation that they were in, and they were able to give her an art credit that she needed she was taking an art class this semester, but it wouldn't have counted in the way that it needed to count, but they had the ability, it was within their control to make that change. And so they were able to do that, which gave Andrea the outcome that she was hoping for. The outcome in this situation was a good outcome. From my perspective, it looks like everybody involved responded to the situation by focusing on what they could control and doing the best that they could do in seeing each other as people, treating each other as people, recognizing that we all make mistakes, recognizing that the things that we do influence other people, but it doesn't control them. And what we want to do is make sure that our behavior, when at all possible, is a positive and a healthy influence on others, not a negative influence. And so hopefully that example helps you see a little bit more how those principles wouldn't work without each other. They're all necessary and they all work together. We have the choice as to whether or not we accept those principles and strive to follow them or live in accordance with them, or we can choose to not follow them. Either way, we're going to experience the consequences of the choice that we make. As we experience more positive choices from understanding and following those principles, it will become easier for us to use those principles in the future, to where it can almost become that we've moved from a place of scarcity, a place of blame, a place of trying to control things outside of our control, that we move to a place where our reaction now to situations is we focus on ourselves. We look at the things that we can control and we work on those things. We continue to see people as people and to recognize that ultimately I'm accountable for my life, but I have the choice to choose how I respond to what happens. And with my thoughts, I also have the choice to choose how I respond to that. And if I make self-interest choices now in the moment, that's going to influence what happens to me in the future. So understanding principles, living by principles, that's the key to achieving true happiness in this life and understanding who we really are and giving us the power and control over our life. Thanks for watching. Be sure and subscribe to our channel. Visit our website at principlebasedliving.com. And if you're watching this on LinkedIn, be sure and follow me here.